Let me angle this up. Did you post the link in the Discord or? I'm here, like always. I'm pulling it up on my phone. Just yeah. It isn't showing up on YouTube for me. Yeah. Oh, gotcha. That's how I like check to see how many people are on, but because of the delay, it's always like, oh yeah, they're reacting to what I said before and not right now. So I can't check if anyone's on. To those people that are on, hi. Mm-hmm. Okay, games pulled up. Should be good. Okay. I hope they're checking rules and stuff. They should be. I have faith. Okay, cool. I'll start then since their match is starting. Alright, y'all. So today we have our very own McNair Cougar Claws versus the North Mesquite Stallions. We've played this team before, and while we don't have set information on each player as we do our own, I can say that we won 3-1 against them. This being said, it wasn't a particularly close match. All I can say is best of luck to both teams. On our end, we have team captain Gabriel DeGuccio, who is Kava. We have Benjamin Youssef, Blame, who is a freshman. Gabriel is a senior. Owe Jafar, who is also a senior. Ahmed Sheikh, also a senior. Cohen Santos, a junior. And Kerwin Pasreo, a junior. The game has already been paused, likely due to a player disconnect. See how things go. Okay, stream is up. I guess I'm taking this time to prematurely say, make sure you have some water on you as you're watching the stream. Yeah, this happened last time, and I also didn't know what to say. And I was like, I'm going to make a list of what to say in this scenario. I never did that. So, Guess we'll see how this works. As of right now, there are 5 to 6 people watching. Hi, all. I hope you enjoy. Do take care of yourself, especially because this is the week after a long month of break. It's just the final stretch till winter break. And we're on again. With a break like that, it's kind of hard to say how things will go, especially because it's also a conflict of, oh, I was prepared to play this match and I got interrupted. So will my focus remain here or elsewhere? Right now, Always is doing his best to keep our team healed, but because of how staggered they are, it might not work out very well. Currently, he is in a good spot with Cohen, one of our main tanks. In this scenario, it's best for him to stay in the backline because he's a close range healer, meaning that he can't go off to great distances in order to heal the rest of the team. The team has to stay with him or they won't make it in alive. Right now, the entire team is contesting on the point from which the opponent has already gotten. Currently, they're pretty staggered, assuming that they regroup. I think they still have a chance to win it. They have a couple ults ready to use, but the way they use it is what really matters, regardless of the strength of said ult, because the entire other team is at the point where they need to go. So their goal is to stagger this team and break their grouping. With the team so spread out, it's kind of hard to say how much of a struggle it is to keep them all healed and while still getting kills off the other team, because our team has a varying range of skills. Some specialize in just getting kills in a more strategic way, others don't. And it's from a healer point of view, it's kind of hard just because one part of the team might stay near the healer, making it easier on them, but the other part, which may be crucial to getting that point or securing that point after getting it, might just run off. So they could call out for heals and you would never know where they are because you're so focused on the people right in front of you. Especially with a close range healer, once that close range healer is gone, it becomes even more of a struggle of, hey, we lost our healer, and though there's also another one on this team, we still need both in order to keep fighting. So hopefully Aways can balance it out. With the team composition they have right now, defense is pretty good, though offense is kind of ranging depending on how well the other team can counter. We have many shields, you have many people that can heal themselves, so it's more so a task of protecting those who can't and making sure that they can push through as they need to. Okay. So we're in overtime, meaning this team needs to stay on that point for as long as they can in order to get another chance at securing it. The other team is at 99%, meaning if they get off this point for a long enough amount of time, they will lose this round of the match. Currently, it's a fight between ults and who can survive the amount of damage being thrown around between both teams. As you can see here, both healers were killed in the first few seconds of that major battle. So it's hard on both sides of this, I guess, to keep the flow of the game going. The healers have to be there to keep the rest of the team healed so they can continue fighting, and the rest of the team needs their healers or else they can't go anywhere. So in that scenario where so many ults are being thrown targeted at healers, it's very hard to come back from, especially with the time they were given. judging from the team composition as it is right now, they're focusing on staying together. And while this is good for a map like this, especially in closed quarters, it becomes way harder if the healers are taken away from their spots. So if one is killed and one needs to back up and the rest of the team has to push forward, it's hard to say whether they'll keep this point for as long as they can or if they lose it very early on in the game. The other team is strong when they're all together, but because of this formation and how they usually fight their battles, it's clear to me at least that they're stronger together more than they are apart. So if our team can kind of kill them off slowly and stagger them a bit, it becomes way easier to keep a hold of that objective. Like I said before, some of the healers needed to back up regardless of how healed up they were, because the rest of their team was staggered, so they couldn't do much and they had to back up. Because in a case like that where you don't have your tanks, the people that can take like more damage, it's hard to stay alive first. And if you get staggered in a state like that, then both parts of your team, offense, defense, and support, if you decide to split it up like that, are forced to regroup, and that gives the other team more time on that objective in the case where they need to lose it. Right now, the primary objective is for them to break through this shield, so to speak, and get through those heroes that can take that much damage, just so that they can get to the objective and secure it. Right now, it's a matter of how fast can we take down these shielded people before we can get our point. Once again, the team is rather staggered, and I think this is a common occurrence, but for me, it's more of a matter of how fast can we regroup and how fast can we form a plan so that we can stop getting so staggered. In this case, the healer's primary objective is to keep Reinhardt with the biggest shield and the strongest shield healed so that he can push through. In this case, it's working rather well. They're able to secure the objective. They're able to get on that point. But because of who on the other team is on that point, it's kind of hard to say who will win this. From a purely strategic standpoint, it's more so the tanks versus the tanks as opposed to the entire team, because the entire team can flood in after those tanks are taken down. So I think that's where we're struggling, because our primary focus is to keep those tanks alive or push through the other tanks. The other team has a similar strategy, just based on that recording alone or play of the game alone. And judging from that, it's kind of funny actually how similar the strategies are between these two teams, because both healers on each side have one focusing on the tank so they can push through, and the other focusing on the rest of the team who are harder to get to for that main healer. I want to take this moment now, as the next round is getting set up, to thank everyone in the chat for coming along, watching the stream, supporting the team. You guys are amazing. Okay. So, luckily right now the team is taking an opportunity to strategize to sort of counter this, because when you use a strategy like that and you see another team using a similar strategy, it becomes easier, I guess, to think of a counter, but at the same time, because they're so used to playing the way they do, it's hard to apply that said counter, because you can point out all the weaknesses in your own plan, but actually acting on those weaknesses rather than acting on your own strengths is something hard, especially for a team whose adaptability is great, but they're more so strong because they know what they're doing and they know each role every team member has. Though it's best to keep in mind that this is a best 3 out of 5 match, so they do have quite a bit of time to figure out how they're going to counter this other team, especially because of how things are going and the similarity between their strategies. All right. All right. And now I pass things on to Jalen, who will be joining us shortly. Thanks for watching the stream, guys. Gotcha.
Welcome to Hollywood. Prepare to attack. Select your hero. Never stop fighting for what you believe in.
All right, and the second round has begun. Our main healer always has sort of switched his character, and in doing so, he takes the opportunity to become more of a distanced healer, and this allows the team to be more fluid with their movements because they don't have to stay with the healer in this case. The character he's playing, Ana, has a sniper rifle that shoots bullets that can heal teammates, and this is great because in countering their own strategy, they see the weaknesses in their own plans and are able to form a counter that they know will work because they know their plan the best rather than a plan that differs. And because the other team has a similar plan, it's a matter of how can we best apply that counter that we thought of based on our own. And because they get to use this counter against this team with this level and see how they react, they can use this as an entirely new strategy. And I think that's the best part about this game and how adaptable one can be with.
Yeah, speaking of adaptability, if you're gonna be chiming in here, you can see that Ana and Zen is a very good comp here regards to theirs, because Zen can add discords and combined with Ana's anti-heal, which makes it so while they're discorded, they take way more damage when the discord's on them, and if they're anti-healed, along with the extra damage on them, it allows for them to melt down a specific person very, very quickly, which can be very helpful in bringing down a tank or getting a very important pick-off in this team comp. But the one problem that they might face is that Ana's going to have to take a huge bulk of the healing on this team, as Zen heals really slow and Ana heals really fast, but can only heal on one single target and doesn't have many AoE. So the team overall is going to have to play very passive while staying aggressive at the right moments in order to stay alive.
I think this is where team comp plays a huge role, because one of our tanks, Cohen, has decided to play a hero that can heal themselves. So in doing this, he kind of picks up some of the weight from our healers and basically says, hey, don't focus on me, focus on the rest of the team, because I can heal myself and push through by myself.
Although I caught in a very big graph here, this is where, see now what the other team did in regards to ours is that if in a situation like that, a Zen is very good for his ult such as Transcendence, which allows everyone to be healed greatly at the same time. But since the other team had a Sombra, they used EMP, which disabled everyone's abilities and ultimates, so Transcendence was not able to be used there, which is very unfortunate for our team.
I think that because they were so scattered, they weren't expecting a grab that big, and so because they were all brought together, it kind of got hard to deal with because they were all focused on, oh, I'm gonna go for this person, and we're just gonna see how that goes. But because of a grab, which kind of pulls them all into one spot, it's kind of like, hey, who's near me? What's happening? And that kind of shakes up the team and how they react to the rest of this match.
If you look at, we see it's a 5v5 against. They both lost to DPS. Odds going down due to the Deadeye. It seems the other team doesn't have many ults after using a Deadeye and a Grab and Valkyrie. They could have at most 3 ults. So if our team starts to build their own ults together and builds kind of a ult rush, they can very easily win this point. They decided to switch off the Hog to a Rhine to start sort of a double shield against their team to maybe defend against the McCree, who is pretty much Roman McCree here.
And now we're hit with a second grab. But because of Reinhardt's shield, he's able to sort of eat some of that damage from that grab. And this gives the rest of our team some time to get back into their positions. Because with an ult like that, it's easy to become staggered. It's easy to lose your positioning compared to the rest of the team. But because of this shield, we're able to keep our positioning, whether that be with a couple of losses or not.
It seems they were able to win this point across, still conserving Hanzo's ult, but it seems like the other team is trying to contest with a Wrecking Ball here. See, our Hanzo throws the ult in the middle in order to keep the team off the point and make it so they can't enter through that doorway. And they end up getting 2 picks off for this as well. So what our team might try to do here is push up and try to get the rest of the picks off in order to create an even bigger stagger against the other team and get way more distance on the cart, rather than staying back and letting them respawn.
I think one of the best things about a map like this and playing offensively in this case is that there are so many chokes surrounding the payload or their primary objective where they have to stay in order to take this moving object, that they can honestly take a hold of that and farm their ults in a way that forces the other team to have to come get them or wait it out until they get far enough from these said chokes.
Yeah, in a payload map like this, double shield with a Sigma and Rhine makes it very easy for our team to push up and be aggressive while also pushing the payload at the same time. Because the Ana allows her to be on the payload while still being able to heal and getting distance off that payload. But as you can see here, that window causes a huge influx in damage onto our team, and it seems like they might have to back up here.
I think they're in a very good place as of where the payload is and where they are, so that they can become this staggered and still like follow up on it, because even if the other team pushes up on the payload, they don't push it at the same rate. So our team still has the chance to seize the opportunity of these said chokes and the positioning they're in and take some kills and get some ult.
Speaking of ults, we have Sigma's Graphitic Flex coming in. Sombra tries to counter it with an EMP, and it kind of hits a lot of them, but sadly that EMP really did counter well.
So from this entire ordeal, we have our Nano, we have a couple of more ults I can't exactly see, but we're getting some more ults back, and because of this, it'll allow for an easier push because of the amount of combos that can be done in a set amount of time.
Soon though, as they only have 30 seconds to push the rest of the payload, they're gonna have to bring a very big ult combo here to wipe the team and push it into the next point before it reaches, well, as it's reaching overtime, so they can get a bit more time to push it all the way.
They're using their ults very well in the sense that Oasis Nanoed are one of our main tanks so that we can get more damage on the enemy team. Using a ult like Grab with this Nano allows for more damage and more stagger because an entire team, or a majority of it, has been killed.
What's really great about this is that the Zarya, while they were pushing in, ended up using her grab, and what Gabe did in ulting their grab is that he pushed them off of they're off of his entire team by using the Dragon Strike on it to put a little barrier of damage around them, so they couldn't push him at all. And that ended up wasting the other team's entire grab. And now you can see they're really starting to push up here, making the other team still use ults while pushing up and barely using their own. But the other team does hit a big shatter here, which might cause a wipe.
I find it interesting that Oasis switched from Ana to a more close range healer, Moira, because that allows him to do more damage, but it relies on the team being together with him in order to get this damage done while keeping them healed. I think he does this so that they can close the distance between the team and stop too many push-ups from happening. Because with a healer like Ana, you're not concerned about your own positioning. It's like, oh, the healer will somehow get to me if I stay relatively close, and I can push up knowing that I'll still get healed. But with a healer like Moira, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I need to back up so that I can 1, get to the payload, and 2, get my heals.
I think that what they switched to Moira Mercy is very good for this last joke because it's very close quarters rather than it being across high ground and stuff. They're very close quarters in regards to where the payload is and to where they have to actually push up, especially this little choke here where they're going to be very close to each other and try to group up together. So Moira is going to be very good for keeping everyone up at the same time, and Mercy is very good for this last point because they're probably going to need a crucial resurrection in order to get back a pick that the other team might get.
As we can see here, Moira has used her ult in the case that we need both heals and damage at the same time because the payload is super close to its objective and the team is kind of fighting on its last lifeline. If they get down, then it'll be even harder because of the amount of chokes that the enemy team can abuse.
It seems like this is a very close point here because now the other team is switching to a bunch of hold characters, which are mainly characters that are easily able to stay alive and move very fast at the same time, making it difficult to kill them in a short amount of time. But it seems like it doesn't matter as our team is killing them off very quickly, focusing on one target at a time to make sure they get the kills.
I think that's a major feat in and of itself. But when you remember that this is a point that's very close to their own spawn, meaning that even if they get staggered, it's rather easy for them to all regroup. Our team still managed to combat that. That's just amazing.
It's very good teamwork on their side. By not focusing on many different targets at the same time, they can focus on one person that comes out of the spawn at a time to make sure they get the kills very fast. Because a common mistake when in that position is you start seeing all these people coming in and you start focusing on one person and all of a sudden their entire team's back and then you start losing people and then you lose the point entirely. But our team kept it together well. It seems like they're going to try to run a very similar comp to what they did on attack, but maybe a BAP and Ana on defense instead of Moira, because there are more defensive heroes that can hold down very well, especially Baptiste with his immortality field. They can hide around corners and sit on point whenever he puts that down so they can just not die while also being able to peek basically for free.
It's also worth mentioning that both these heroes can heal from a larger distance. Bap can use his grenades, or primary and secondary fire, to heal his teammates, while Ana can use her sniper rifle and kind of boost her own teammates from the safety of the payload. So they can safely back up to the payload and she'll still be there.
I think the strategy that they're trying to use here, especially with the Mercy, is that they're going to try to keep the Hanzo pocketed and very alive during this with the damage boost, so he can get very easy picks. As you very can clearly see here, damage boost on Hanzo is very powerful in this sort of defense.
I think that they do this because you can count on Ana to heal the rest of the team while it may be slower than usual, because Hanzo is a very fluid character. He can move very quickly from one point to another, and in using Mercy to heal and damage boost him, it kind of makes Oasis' job easier because he doesn't have to focus on them. He can focus on just the tanks or just the DPS surrounding him, and that makes it instantly easier, especially with a character like Ana.
Yeah, we see very evidence of a very good Ana play here. He sleeps the Ryan along, or sleeps the Baptiste along, a very easy pick on him with the Ryan pin, and is keeping up his things very easily. But it seems like they might be throwing up here. It is very close. It's only Ana and Zarya here.
at this point, it's a matter of how long can I stay alive before the rest of my team gets back. And because the Mercy's still alive, we still have that sort of lifeline in the sense that she can fly around and heal who she needs to, given that they're in a range where she can fly to.
They're all grouping up before, and the point's not capped yet, so if they're bold enough, they could try recapturing it, and it seems that that's what they're trying to do, but they are a healer down. He gets a very big sleep on the Sombra right there, which might result in a kill on it. It seems that they're going to try to commit here, using ults.
They're doing a very good push, I think, because of that nano with the Rhine. Even though they got struck down, it gave them that like extra second or two to keep that point.
And what's very good about using Nano right there is that Ana builds Nano very quickly and very fast as well. Just because of the presence of a Nano Ryan, that caused their Zarya to use her grab, which is a very crucial ult in for comboing, which makes it so that, and it takes a very long time to charge. So versus using, oh wow, they also just got a 6-man with those. Can't even comment everything at the same time. That Graviton Dragon Strike combo was very huge in getting that 6-man, as it's very powerful. As the grab puts them all together, and then the Dragon Strike just melts through everyone, and that was very big evidence in how such a simple alt combo can work very well.
Even if we lost that payload there, we also got another ult, so now I believe we're at 3, even without the nano, and I think that's very beneficial because of the amount of chokes that are in this map that I mentioned before, where both teams will be forced into a spot where they have to weigh the options of where they should go and where the rest of their team is. And so they kind of push forward, and they kill most of the rest of the other team, actually.
This is very good, as they got a pick on that Reaper, staggering the other team very heavily. But one small problem is that our team is running out of ults here to use, as they did just use Death Blossom and Shadow last fight.
I think that if they take advantage of their positioning now, they can sort of farm those ults, even if they lose a couple of meters on that distance of the payload.
This is a very tough point here. They use their final ult vouch, but it seems like Ana is coming up with another nano. Man, I think one problem that I'm noticing from our team against theirs is that their Ryan is very consistently getting shatters onto our team, and our Ryan's having a very hard time blocking them. So maybe if our Ryan started paying more attention to how the other Ryan is moving and putting up his shield and how aggressive he's playing, blocking those shatters could be very crucial in shutting down the other team's pushes.
I think the other Ryan also takes advantage of their positioning, even though Ana is a long-range healer, because the ults are always happening when the team is more or less relatively close. So I think that if they space out, sort of, they lose that ult because the other team will be like, oh, I can't use my ult. Maybe it'd be better to use later, and so they kind of delay the usage of the other ults and so farm their own.
Sheena, and then we see the switch to Moira again on the 3rd point, because he realizes that this is a more close quarters point and that he can keep his entire team easily healed since they're always going to be grouped up here.
Because of the layout of this part of the map, he can also use his orbs as a way of damaging the other team while focusing on healing our own. And I think that's very important because these orbs bounce off the walls. He can take advantage of where the support beams are in the map.
It seems that they're going to try to win this point here. This doofus is very prevalent against the other on our team right now, as they don't have many stuns to deal with them, so he really is just using his abilities and roaming free.
And here we see a grab and Moira ult plus a drag.
The Graviton Dragon Strike combo, again, wiping off the entire team. Seems to be very effective.
That's an excellent usage of all 3 ults, though now we are sort of weaker in the sense that we can't use those ults later on when the other team regroups and goes for that final push. now it sort of seems like the team is scrambling to keep their place because of the other teams pushing in. And we can see that our healers are desperately trying to keep everybody alive while still doing some damage in order to contribute to staggering the other team.
There's a lot of healing being put up our ways right now. The other team uses another grab here, but it seems like it's pretty wasted.
Especially with a Mercy, it's rather easy to come back to, even if their spawn is relatively close to the payload as it is. That 5 seconds of respawn time can be very crucial, especially in this kind of battle.
That Mora ult was very good from our Mori here because it really caused them to get pushed back, as Mora's ult does a ton of damage to multiple people at the same time if they're all grouped up, and that made them want to split up and move back, and that gave them a very important pick.
It looks like the Ryan is charging in, and as I said before, he capitalizes on how close the team is and where the healers are. Even if he can't get a pin on the entire team, if he gets one healer down, that sort of delays the rest of the team in pushing forward. This is a very close match in terms of how long can our team stay alive in order to keep this payload from reaching its full destination, even if it is very close. Because the fact of the matter is, if it doesn't get to where it has to be, then we win by maybe 1 or 2 points. And that's very important, especially with matches like these where it can get this close very easily. So here we see that both teams have gotten the payload to its final destination, giving this a 3-3. And so this is more dependent on how fast we took this objective to its destination. And now we see how we can make the best usage of the time we're given. In this case, our team is now on attack, so we can use what we've learned from this previous match in order to sort of predict how the other team will go about defending against us.
The true struggle is for the superiority of ideas. Attack commences in 30 seconds. You're fully healed. We all have our jobs to do.
Right now, Oasis has gone with the option of Moira as a healer instead of Ana, so I think this team is going to capitalize on their positioning rather than continuously pushing up and letting the tanks push through alone. Here we see we have both Ryan and Zarya, so this gives us a significant amount of shielding, as opposed to playing other tanks that, even if they can heal themselves, have weaker defense. Because of how close range this healer is and how the team is pushing through, it's kind of easier in the sense that our healers can heal way faster and way more people as opposed to if they were distanced, because of the way the map is, especially with a choke like this. They only have 1 or 2 options in order to get that payload. As you can see, the team is successful in kind of working around their usual positioning and using the chances they have to do as much damage as possible. Even if our team is staggered, they did a significant amount of damage, and this gives them kind of an easier way to get that payload, even if they're all staggered. I see here that Oasis has gone for Lucio, and that's probably in an effort to recapture the payload because of his speed and the speed of his wall ride, but it's proven unsuccessful. Our main objective now, as the other team attacks, is just to keep them from doing the exact same and pushing through and getting that payload. Here we see Oasis picked Baptiste, who can kind of use his ult and his primary and secondary fire in order to keep his team alive. And because the other healer, Ben, has gone for a Mercy, I'm just going to predict that we're having a team comp where one person is going to say damage boosted, and the rest will be healed by always alone. Judging by the team comp and the usage of Bastion, they're going for a strat that allows them to keep the other team away from the payload entirely, rather than just waiting for them to fill in and then killing them there. In using Bastion, we have a hero that can heal himself and do significant damage even when he's kind of low. And with the positioning we're at right now, they're kind of taking advantage of Bastion's strength and his offensive capabilities while using Sigma's shield in order to shield him from the rest of the other team. From this alone, we can see that the other team is using a Reinhardt and a similar strat as they were using beforehand. And so we kind of get to see how they react to the team comp that we have currently. Right now, our team is doing a very good job in keeping them away from the payload, and we'll just see how successful they are. Here you can see the team is using the layout of the map in an interesting way by forcing the other team to go through it and as they try to oppose the Bastion, but instead getting thwarted because it's such a tight area that all the heroes can jump in without worrying about who they're aiming for and just kind of shoot away in the hopes that more of the other team falls. Though the Reinhardt of the other team is pushing through with great strength, I don't think it's going to be enough to secure this payload, especially with how many people are on it to begin with. As you can see here, the other Rhine is taking advantage of his abilities and is still thwarted because of the positioning of our team. Because there are so many people here willing to compensate for the death of one, it's super easy to come back to, regardless of who the other hero is, giving us the draw. I believe it's just 1-1 or 1-0 at this point. Right now, they're switching maps. It is likely in our best interest to counter the rest of the team now that we see how reliant they are on this one strategy of relying on their Reinhardt. And I think that that's very important because we know how reliant a team can be because of our usual team comp.
Traveling to Hanamura. Prepare to attack. Select your hero.
Heroes is trying to pick a healer that can compensate for the amount of space that the team was going to use because of a map like this.
No dying on
He goes for a hero like Baptiste, who can keep the rest of his team alive depending on where they are near him. And I think that this is a strat that we don't usually use, especially because we mainly focus on using healers like Ana or Mercy. But in this case, we're pairing Baptiste with Mercy, And I think that's very interesting as opposed to what we usually do. We're using the similar strat that we've been using the entire time with the double shielding of Zarya and Reinhardt, though it's unclear as to how we're going to use this while countering the other team. In a map like this, our team has only 2, but more like 1 option in terms of getting to the objective, which is this big doorway that allows for both teams to exchange fire. And with our team comp, it's kind of hard because the movement will be so predictable. So it's more of a matter of how strong they can push in and how easily the healers can keep the rest of the team alive, or how easily the healers can be defended from the other team. It's, yeah. I was gonna say that later. As I'm watching this and as I'm watching Oaze literally pop off, I would like to say happy birthday, Oaze, and happy belated birthday too on Ned. That's kind of crazy how many birthdays are in December, or that weird week between November and December alone. Right now they're securing the point, and it seems as though the other team has given up on this point and is instead backed up to the point that's closer to their spawn, which will be kind of easier to defend in the sense that they don't have to account for the amount of time it takes to get from point A to point B, quite literally. Our team has resorted to going through the right area. With a map like this, there are 3 ways you can go: left, mid, and right, but in picking the right side, they put themselves in a choke but are able to focus fire more easily because everyone can see who they're supposed to be aiming for. And we see that it's easy to ult farm because of the amount of pushes the other team will try and get. This is a fairly quick match in terms of how fast both points were taken regardless of team comp used, especially because we see how the Rhines kind of counter each other, with one being more aggressive and one being more defensive, and it just shows how differently you can approach a similar strat in one match alone. I hope he stays like that. I hope he stays popping off. It's just that birthday luck, apparently. Here we see our team going for the exact same strat, even when going defensive. And I think it's important to note that our team comp is already defensive in the sense that we have so many shields, or so many people that can heal themselves or get to a point where they can heal themselves. And it's interesting because of the amount of consideration you have to account for, because with the different healers and the different abilities, it's more of a choice between, do I want to stay behind or do I want to be in the front lines with the rest of my tanks? Here we see that Oaze has gone for that I'm going to stay back approach and using Ana, who is a long range healer. And because we know of his accuracy, we can say, well, I can say at least, that he can keep the rest of his team healed while being far away, so that he can sort of contest the point, and in the case that our team is taken down, give them those 3 to 4 seconds where they can respawn and easily get to the point and make a decision based on who is where. Here we can see the team backing up because they've seen the composition of the other team and thus adjusting to it, which can be very good or very bad depending on how the other team kind of responds to that, hey, I'm backing up sort of statement. Here they're going for a different approach. Rather than going through directly the middle, they're going kind of in a scattered formation. And that's kind of hard because we rely on focus fire to do the damage we do. But it's also hard on them because the healers will have to, on the other side, will have to account for where everyone else is, rather than saying, oh, everyone's here, I don't have to focus on moving towards anyone else. Our team is staying strong with both healers still alive even after that push. And that gives us a good idea of like how how many other options the other team has and is willing to take, especially because of the heroes they've chosen. And using Reaper, they're able to target our healers, giving us a chance to kind of reform our strategy based on that. We know where they're going to go. We know how they're going to approach this point and the next point, and how they're going to single out certain other characters. Here we see that our team has fully backed up as the other team did in this same sense. And I think that they're going to take advantage of the distance between their spawn and the point and use Symmetra in the hopes that they can get damage off the other team while still staying backed up to their point. And using Symmetra's teleporters, we can see where they're going to go and where they predict the other team will go. And this gives us an easier way of understanding how they're responding. We can see now that because we're using Moira and Mercy, the team is counting on the close range of this battle and just pushing through regardless of what the other team comes up with in these few seconds. And though the other team makes great strides in pushing through to that point, it's kind of inefficient because of the amount of focus fire that can be done with these different heroes. Especially with Moira, whose damage locks onto the opponent. It's kind of hard to use a mobile character because that damage will get to you either way. The same goes for Mercy's healing, which locks onto opponents rather than her looking at them, or teammates rather than her looking at them directly. And it kind of makes it easier on the healers as just, hey, come close to me and I'll heal you, and then you can go on and farm your ult or do whatever you need to do to keep the other team from coming. And I think that's very important in terms of where the point is and how easy it is to get to said point.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Jalen.
Sorry about that. Had to go eat. But yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, I was looking back here. Looks like they're popping the window on the second point of Hanamura on the top left, but they still end up pushing in and winning the point. A very respectful D-bag by our sim player.
It's worth mentioning again that it is Oasis' birthday today, so we're hoping that gives him some birthday luck and keeping the rest of this team alive.
Yeah, Oasis is very good at this game, so I bet he'll catch up for our team.
He's playing very strongly today in terms of how easily he can heal the rest of our team, given that they're so spread out or so close together with the heroes that he chooses to play.
Yeah, last time I checked the game before, I'm pretty sure he had 15k heals at around 13 minutes of the game, which is very good in terms of healing, because that's 2k above the minute. Well, as you can see, they're pushing up on the top left of the point. Death Blossom seems to be clearing everyone out. See, Sim's gonna try to jump on the points. You can test, puts turrets all over the point to try to slow him down. But it's very sad he gets pushed by the Reaper, but seems to be winning and does trade with the Reaper. So the team ends up coming on, but it seems to have.
Our team was very staggered in that scenario. It was kind of hard to come back to, even with the ults they had and the people that were still alive after that whole ordeal. Though we are at a tie once again, proving that both teams have improved since their last match. Because the last match, I believe, was a 3-1, and this gives us a sort of estimation as to where their skills lie against each other.
In my opinion, it seems like our team is winning very well, at least on attack, because they had a whole 2 minutes above their attack time, which is very good for when it gets down to the wire. As now, every single time they attack, they don't get any time back. So having 2 minutes above them is going to be very huge when it comes to having to deal with attacking and defending on this map. It can get very drawn out as well. So both teams gonna have a ton of endurance here to win the game.
This guy's pressing his birthday luck, man. I shouldn't have mentioned it.
A very mature 18-year-old, as one would say. that a Widow? Yeah, as you can see, a damage boost on Hanzo one-shots, but doesn't one-shot the Squishy, but gets them very low. So the Squishy has any type of damage on them, the Hanzo damage boost will most likely one-shot.
In playing a hero like Baptiste, it's kind of easy for the team to back up and push forward because he's kind of mid-range. If you think about how Ana's a long range and War is a sort of closer range, he can kind of reach his both opponents and teammates very easily, regardless of if he has Mercy's fly ability or not.
Seems that the Ryan got walled off, but somehow still winning, and this is a very good representation of how Baptiste could be used very well. Because the Ryan was walled off right there, Baptiste put his immortality field around the wall, so the Ryan could actually stay alive and actually not get killed, even though there's a wall right behind him blocking him for the rest of his team. Very good play by our Baptiste there.
I think that's also a good call on the spatial awareness of Orion because he knows, like, he can kind of hear where the immortality is being placed, so he can kind of place himself where it is most beneficial. And so he still stays alive through these pushes, regardless of the other team chooses to push through it.
Our teams used to be very strong against this team, maybe a bit too overconfident as they're pushing very far into their spawn. Especially our Hanzo, he seems to be alone in the back of their team. Might get killed here, but the Mega Health Pack does barely save him.
I think that because of the team comp and the way they're positioned, like I said before, it gives them an easier way to back up onto the point given that the other team pushes through. And thus allows them to sort of counter the other team saying, hey, I can get there too, without much of a delay.
But it seems like even though they were able to get a lot of push off on the enemy team does seem to be taking the first one. Which is honestly fine for these kind of maps, because since it's 2CP, most of these maps usually rely around the second point around the map instead of the first one. So, and now the other team will only have 30 seconds to push the second point as it comes up. So they're going to have to really steamroll this compared to our team, who is going to be very prepared for them.
It gives our team also like a small window of time to think about how they want to counter the other team, as opposed to them having a few more seconds for the other team to just push through and not really care about like where they're going or how they're moving to the next point.
Yeah, it seems like the other team's running a very divey kind of comp, but it seems like that doesn't matter as we get a team wipe and it ends the second round.
Nice.
Now this is going to be the final round of this game, where now our team only has to push past the first point and then get the first tick of the second point in 4 minutes, which is a lot of time. They're just going to have to get through that, because the first point can be very tough on the choke, but as soon as they get through that choke, it should be easy winnings from there.
I think that the team will go for a similar team comp, if not the exact same, though they will take into accountability how the other team reacted to the switch of heroes beforehand.
Yeah, it seems like they're going to run the exact same team comp here on attack. If it was me, I personally wouldn't run BAP on attack, simply because immortality is very hard to play around when you're on attack rather than defense, but if you play as a well on the Baptiste, it could work out.
It all depends on positioning in this game. it all he's not gonna stop busy.
He really likes those sprays.
I think it's his favorite. But like I was saying before, this really the biggest role here goes to positioning and how well the team is able to work like around each other or with each other, and how they react to the other team's positioning. Because in a map like this, especially with the first point, it's kind of predictable as to where the attacking team will go because of the limited movement of said characters that we have. As you can see here, our Ryan is pushing through very, very strongly, actually.
I think the Ryan's pushing very easily here because their entire other team is holding on the point rather than holding a choke, which honestly I think is a big mistake on their part.
Especially with Baptiste, yeah, especially with Baptiste ult, it gives them like quite literally a smaller window of time because the rest of our team will be on that point as opposed to like 3 or 4 members of the other team.
Yeah, we can see that in effect here, as they very easily took that point without needing to really worry about a choker getting stuck. So now, from this point on, they can either win or tie, so they have no fear of losing at this point.
We see here that they're going for the exact same plan as they did before, going through their right choke point as opposed to their mid. And I think that's just because of them defaulting to their usual plan, which is, hey, we're going to go into a place where we find is the most familiar, and we'll just act around that and how the other team responds to our moving to this place.
Yeah, it seems like we have the two flankers trying to back cap the point while everyone else pushes the main choke. So that way the other team has to pick whether they have to go on point or whether they try to push the team on the right. And it seems to have worked very well in splitting up the team as they clear out this map and get a win on this map.
Nice.
Very good job.
Very good push from our team in the sense that we were able to just push along as if there was like such a large, it wasn't such a small distance between the other team's spawn and the player.
I think one of our players is going to take a quick 5-minute break in between these games. So if you could take a quick comment on this play of the game here. There's a very big shatter by Ryan in that little choke point, which causing the whole team up, which is very good. If you look at the cards, you can see the people who outplayed the most was our Ryan, our Reaper, and our Baptiste. Reaper getting a ton of kills with the Ryan getting many good Earth Shatters against the other team. Which is probably in response to what happened on Hollywood, to where their Ryan was doing very well, and our Ryan decides to hit him right back where there's own place.
It's kind of like, hey, we can do that too.
It's got to be the Alpha Ryan.
I want to say that this is more of a Ryan against Ryan kind of match, just because of how reliant these matches are on our tanks.
Yeah, in any Overwatch game, especially when you're playing in pros like this, the duality against the tanks can be very, very intense at times, where you're facing a Ryan v Ryan, Zarya v Zarya, or whatever, because in my opinion, tanks are probably the most important role in the game when it comes to pushing with your team, making sure your team stays alive and gets together easily. So so right now, yeah. So now, if you wanted to know the score, we lost the first game, we tied the second, and we won on the third, and it's a best of 3. So right now, with best of 5, best of 5. Sorry. So now,
No worries, no worries.
we still have many more maps to go in order to win this whole match.
Oh, this is like this is a good way to end the day with a match like this, where you can see the opposition of these dualities. You can see how differently one hero alone can be played, and how the rest of the team can kind of build around that. And it's very interesting.
I think the strongest comp that our team has been able to run, especially, is with, honestly, the BAP. Because I really wasn't expecting the BAP to work on attack that well, especially on the very last attack. But obviously, they proved me wrong with how well he was able to keep everyone up and heal. He used the immortality as well enough to keep everyone up. And I think the most consistent DPS that we've been able to pull out here is our Reaper, because he's always getting kills, he's always pushing back tanks, and he's always getting big ults that result in 2 or 3 eliminations on the enemy team. So if they just keep that up, they'll be able to easily catch this win on Junkertown. And also, speaking of Junkertown, I think the best thing that our team can run, depending on whether attacking or defending, is probably double shield here, because Junkertown's a very, very large map in terms of the first point, and snipers can be very prevalent there. So running a double shield that can stop our team from getting very easily sniped could be really good here.
And we can see how reliant our team is with that double shield, because we're so used to playing it. So they can kind of be more fluid in how they use it.
It seems that with the attack, they're running with the idea of using a sniper, as the map, like I said, is very huge on the first point and allows for snipers to easily rain. So with us getting a Widowmaker here allows us to very easily pick off any lagging supports or DPS that might be sitting around not sure where their head is and get it popped off.
This strategy kind of relies on the idea that the other team will be in such positions where they can be easily picked off, which makes sense because they have to, or the payload will move whether they like it or not.
We'll have to see how this works.
I'm just gonna predict that Orion's going to go for a pin in order to reach that payload faster than usual. Because we have a Mercy who can keep him healed as he does that.
Looks like Orion's just a hog here though.
Oh, that's interesting.
Kinda odd.
Yep. You can see here that the other team is using sort of a more defensive team comp in terms of how their positioning is, because as we see from before, they like to push up all together, but in this case they've kind of taken a step back and they're like hey, you can take the payload as far as you can, and we'll see how that goes.
My stream's slowing down a bit if you want to keep going. Right now we can see that one of our healers is down, which means that the rest of the team is relying on their Mercy to keep them alive as they push the point to its first objective. And you can see that the Widow is very prevalent here, picking off 2 people staying in the far back lines, which is very good for this first push, as you can very clearly see how well snipers work against this other team.
Our healer's doing a great job in keeping the rest of the team alive, even with 1 or 2 down. And that's very important in a map like this, where the distance between spawn and the payload grows. You can see now that our team is pushing up from the payload spot, and that kind of makes it harder because the entire objective is to push the payload as far as possible. But in doing so,
they're making sure they keep through on payload.
They can stagger the other team and then kind of go back in order to make up for that time lost on the payload.
It seems that they're trying to keep at least 1 to 3 on payload to make sure it's always being pushed. But the stagger that they're creating is working very well. They're always picking up 1 person every few seconds to make sure that there's never a full team they have to fight, and for them to very easily get it off. But it seems like the other team is trying to pop a huge roll. Very good immortality by our Baptiste, once again, showing his very well play, as the EMP caused everyone to lose their abilities. But because he
Let's
threw
go,
the
Ace.
immortality
Let's go,
just
Ace, with these amazing immortalities. Let's go.
because he threw it just as the EMP went off, it allowed his team to stay alive without needing to worry about the EMP killing them off.
And this kind of gives our team like a sort of window of time in order to respawn if they're killed, and that just makes everything easier in terms of, hey, even though we got this far, even if we may get staggered, we still have a small window of time to get back on the payload.
It seems like the stagger is really working well here, as they're always picking off someone every few seconds, like I said before, and it seems to be allowing them to go all the way to the second point. The other team making rapid switches to various tanks to try to keep up with our team. It seems to not be working well.
That was an amazing res by Mercy, who takes this opportunity of stagger to revive the second healer so that there is a smaller window of time for the other team to catch up and sort of defend from the payload movement.
Yeah, especially now that there's multiple people pushed up now, even before the payload's even done. Oh, but unfortunately, our Graviton Surge gets eaten by the D.Va's defense matrix, which causes a huge waste of an ult, but we should be fine for it here. He could probably build another one up.
I think it's a good choice to have both BAP and Mercy on a map like this with the team comp we have, because BAP can focus on those in the backline and Mercy can kind of fly around to those who just need the healing rather than kind of everyone focusing on the Mercy for heals.
Yeah, and the Baptiste with this attack here, the immortalities really help when defending against huge ults like a grab or an EMP like we see before.
He's farming this ult rather quickly, and it's worth mentioning because of how easily this ult can be used and the different ways it can be used because of the other team's positioning and other factors.
Yeah, as of right now, they popped Sacrificer, which allows aimbot for the soldier, and put the window in front of it, allowing for a massive amount of damage to be pulled out in a short amount of time, allowing to be basically aim locked on the team and killing many squishies very instantly and melting down things very fast.
And even though this Nano Dryness managed to push through one of our healers, we still have the other who can res Oaze, or just focus on healing the entire team, giving Oaze the chance to come back.
You know, even though they lost this push, I would say our team is in a very good spot right now, as they used many ults in order to stop the other team, while also using not many ults on our side. It was starting to come up on like Graviton Surge, a Whole Hog, and many other different ults that they could push back with instead of having to deal with other things like their ults.
Here we can see that the entire team is pushing up together, which gives the other team a harder time in countering. Because with an entire team like this, all healers, all tanks, it's kind of hard to focus fire because we have so many people that can shield, there's so many people that can self-heal, so that we can push up way easier than expected.
I'm honestly really surprised that the Zarya Hog play is really working on our team, because I was really expecting the double shield to come out from us, and for them to be losing against the Zarya Hog with Hog really not being that good right now compared with the Zarya is very impressive by our team.
And now we see that we're getting more reds and more ults in play, as opposed to just fewer ults because of the amount of countering that has to be done. And I think that's amazing because of the amount of ults that Oaze has gotten in the span of like a couple minutes.
Yeah, our support is doing very well to this game. It's really helping us right now.
And here we see they're making the final stretch, and they got it. Let's go!
With a minute and 36 left. This seems to be a very strong map for them. Let's see what they do on defense here. If they can hold them out, it could be a very simple win for them.
Cohen, I know you're watching this. Your hog is on point today, buddy.
Mari.
I love that song.
No time on my watch.
Oh wait, what's going on here, man?
Imagine the worst possible.
Loving this banter from our team in the chat. Always keeping a positive mood while everyone tries to win this game. That's the most important part of these games, is staying positive.
I think that's one of the stronger suits of the people we have on this team, because as fast as they are to react to the other team, they're fast to make each other smile, whether that be with a dumb joke or just some random saying that just makes everybody laugh.
Yeah, it seems like our team, well, it's very important when trying to win games together, because a toxic team will never be able to win, no matter how good they are. If they get mad at each other all the time, it will never work.
But with a team like this, it's easy to build off each other, even if something is called incorrectly or inaccurately. They're always just like, okay, it's over with, we can't regret it, so we have to move forward or we're never going to win.
Sadly enough, one of our players did just lag out the game due to Wi-Fi issues. Hopefully he'll be coming back soon.
In the meantime, I take this opportunity again to say, drink your water, posture check, all that. We don't have touch emotes because this is YouTube, but I'm keeping you covered.
I need the posture check.
I got you. You see, this is why I thought about this the last time this happened. And Oaze is checking his stats.
Our player seems to be back. At this moment, I'd like to thank our sponsor.
2, 1, and we're back.
1.
With a pause like that early game, it's kind of easy to say like, oh, they can easily get it because everyone's distracted or vice versa. And I think that because of the amount of antics that go on in these separate calls that we can see how focused the team is and how easily they build off each other in terms of how they react to situations like that where the game is interrupted.
You know, the instant switch from Widowmaker to Soldier was very well placed, as he immediately noticed that the Echo was going to be very hard to play against if they only have Reaper and Widow. So playing a Soldier to get that Echo out of the sky very easily would be a very nice switch from our main DPS here.
One of the best things about playing a strat that you know well and you're like accustomed to is being able to be super observant of the other team without worrying about the stability of your own plan, because you can kind of play around with it and know that your teammates will build off of you or build off a couple ideas just spread throughout the play.
It's very rough fighting going on. The Soldier's putting in a lot of damage but can't seem to finish anyone off. Once again, another immortality coming off. But it seems like it wouldn't work out, as they have a ton of damage coming from the Echo and the Baptiste window.
I think that our team will find some kind of counter to it, but in the meantime, they're just going to keep pushing so that they can stall the payload as this counter is being thought up. Right now, it looks like they're going to back up in a sense that they're going to wait for the rest of the team to not be as staggered before pushing in to try getting some kills off of the other team.
You know, the one problem with their team is that they're running a very high-risk, high-reward comp here. Without the shields, the Echo can get a ton of damage on the tanks, as if someone is half HP or less, her beam ability quickly melts down anyone who is hit by it. So since they have no shields, they can very easily get whittled down to that half HP mark and basically be instantly eliminated from the Echo. So unless they take her out very consistently, the Echo is going to be a very big problem.
Oasis using his positioning very well in terms of where he places the immortality, or where he just sits as compared to the rest of the team, because he knows where the team is and can kind of use that to build off of, in the sense that he's just like, okay, the team is here, so I can fire here and they'll be healed whether I can see that or not.
Yeah, it seems like we got another switch coming from our main DPS, switching from Soldier to Hanzo, because it seems like they're going to try to do that grab Dragon Strike combo again, which again is very, very good when wiping teams out and can be very helpful when putting everyone together and getting them out of the fight very quickly.
And using that, we can kind of see that we're going to have a damage boosting Mercy on the rest of our team, as Baptiste is going to focus on healing. So I think that once their ults come up, she's going to switch from healing to damage boosting to maximize the amount of damage we get from these said ults.
It seems that the Hanzo was a very good pick against the Soldier and the Echo, as he's taken them out pretty easily, only needing 2 arrows per person. So if he has well-placed shots, those DPS can be picked off very easily. It seems that the other team has switched to a shield, which is going to make it harder for our hit scan / snipers to get damage in, but it shouldn't be too much, as Sigma shield is pretty weak, not holding.
Come on, guys, we got it. You got it. You got this.
And it seems like immediately, as soon as the Hanzo comes out, they go back to the grab Dragon Strike combo, wiping out the team again. That seems to be their bread and butter when it comes to this comp, and it is very, very good.
Especially with that other Baptiste using his ability, it shows how cleanly a kill can come just from these 2 ults alone, whether you have the support of other ults or not.
And what I really liked about that play specifically is that they made sure to take out the immortality while the ults were going off, so that way the Baptiste couldn't save his entire team just by placing the immortality. They paid attention and made sure that all defenses were off.
All combos like that are way easier said than done because of the amount of timing it takes to, the amount of time it takes to perfect an ult combo like that, especially because of the animation that Hanzo has to do before releasing the dragons.
Exactly. If any misplaced or hesitation in comboing those ults could result in a loss of a team wipe because of that animation that takes a quick second or two. The graviton could wear out in those seconds and cause a misplay, which would be very disappointing.
And that shows how important like trust and timing are in these scenarios, because you kind of have to just place down your ult in the hopes that someone will follow up with it, even if you call it out, because of just how our team is and how they react to different ults being placed down.
But it seems like the other team is going to reach us to the third point here. They're probably going to have to play very, very defensive here in order to stop them from pushing. If they stop them here, the game straight up just ends and they get another win in the series. So this could really be effective here if they're able to hold it down.
This is truly a test of our healers and how they can keep the rest of our team alive as they're kind of defending the payload from moving any further. They're pushing up and it looks like they're gonna make it. I think that if they keep going the way they are, that they'll be able to counter this team and keep them where they are, even if they lose a bit of time because of just where the payload is and how close it is to where it has to be.
Yeah, this is a very good spot for them to be able to hold. The payload's just about halfway across, which means they can walk around the corner if they take too much damage, or sit on the side of the payload to make sure it actually doesn't get pushed, while also not taking too much damage in the meantime.
It's really a test of how closely our team can make it, even with the amount of healing being done with all heroes rather than just the healers, because some of these heroes can self-heal, as I said before earlier in the stream.
So once again, we get that Dragon Strike combo, but was really pulled off well right there. But still, we still get a couple of picks from the Dragon Strike, and we seem to be pushing up with it well. Seems to be a very big back and forth as
the
well.
other team, our team gets the chance to follow up. So I think that we can make it. I'm really hoping we can, but
Yeah, there's a very big back and forth in this fight here. It's gonna come to the very last stretches of this point. They only have to defend for 50 more seconds, so if they can end up getting rid of this point, then, well, getting rid of this push, then they can end up winning this game in the series.
and because of how close the payload is going to be to their spawn, it makes it easier for some heroes to fall, even with Mercy's resurrection, because as long as they can hold it for 5 seconds, they can get the rest of the team onto the payload. We have another dragon securing the payload where it has to be.
Only 20 more seconds. This is going to be the other team's very last push. If they can get a crucial pick here, that could cause a very big disruption in the other team's final push. So getting one pick here before they push is very crucial.
Here it's a test of how our team reacts to their push and just how well our tanks can defend against the loads of damage being done on.
Seems the only ult we have here is a bug, but Dragon Blade comes out only to get one person off. It seems like our DPS are going to try to switch to stall heroes now to try to get on the point fast and not die.
You can see our Mercy ulting here and showing just how much stalling has to be done for the payload to stay in place, rather even if it's not moving backwards. We can see how much it takes to keep that payload from moving and how useful an ult can be regardless of what it is and who's using it.
Oh, it's not. I was gonna say something about them being over a minute, but I did realize the payload map. And that if this was a payload and a capture map, then them having a minute overtime while the other team had to go through overtime would have made it so that only the people with a minute over the time could push and win the game. But sadly, this isn't that kind of map, so each team gets a minute to push the payload. But they do have a huge advantage here, as our team has 2.5 minutes while the other team only has a minute to push payload. So if they defend this very well, they'll only have to push a few meters in 2 minutes of time.
And we've seen before with this map earlier in the match that our team can push through very easily. It's just a matter of we have to stay as together as possible, make it easier on the healers and just easier for the entire team to build ults and farm ults as well. And we're back to Oasis antics. Mans is really pushing it.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 60 seconds remaining. Stop the payload.
It seems that the other team is running the exact same comp, very confident that they could push it all away using the same thing. What's very good about what we're doing is that if they get one grab dragon combo, that could wipe the team and just end the push entirely. So all our team really needs is just a good ult combo to stop the entire team's push on this round. And it seems like they're already wiping them one time.
They're very useful in a map like this because the other team is forced into that position where they have to be close together or at least close to the payload. So that gives this ult the positioning it needs to just be placed down, and you can kind of count on it to take out at least one member of the other team.
Yeah, because they already wiped them once, now the other team barely has any time to push the payload here. So it's going to be stuck in overtime, and if they get off the payload one time for just a little bit of seconds, this round ends. So all our team needs is just one team wipe, or just one ult combo to knock them off point, and then that's it for this round.
And we can see that Oasis has his ult now, so he can keep the rest of the team alive as they build their ults. And we're already in overtime, so let's see how this goes.
And once again, but best case scenario, they can end up getting a pick here on someone using Hanzo and be able to push in and defend it before they even capture the first point. And it seems like they are going to try to defend this first point with a Valkyrie. But the other team uses many ults in this.
I think the best case scenario here is that the team regroups as fast as possible and is able to kind of counter the rest of the other team as they push forward.
We have Hanzo coming up at Dragon Strike. Zarya a little bit slow on her grab, but that's fine, because they only need it one time, and then they're done.
Because you hear that the other team is kind of focusing on our tanks and kind of trying to get them into spots where they can easily be taken down, but it's not the case because of where our healers are in relation to those tanks.
Interesting play about Hanzo uses Dragon Check before we get grabbed, because he knows that we only need one team wipe to win this. So maybe if we try to risk it and try to just kill him with the ult, that we can win it. Very big counter shatter from our Ryan, but it's very big back and forth here with only Ryan and Hanzo being alive versus 2 DPS.
Even if the dragon wasn't as successful as we hoped it would be, it still made the other team kind of push away from where they had to be because of where the dragons would be.
Science will reveal the truth.
Sadly, that wasn't enough. They're going to be able to push it to the second point. Hopefully they can finish it off with a grab here. And we are coming up on another Dragon Strike, so maybe they'll try to save the grab for another Dragon Strike grab combo.
Here we have a switch from Bap to Moira, which means that the team is going more for damage than anything else. They're kind of pushing through in the hopes that Mercy and Moira can keep the team alive and do as much damage as they can.
Looks like they're going for a whole hammer area in terms of damage, just trying to push in. And it looks like the grab gets quite a bit of people. Another grab dragon combo, seeing as it clears out the entire team once again.
And then using Moira as a healer gives always the opportunity to do damage to those that are hard for our team to focus fire on, because his damage allows him to lock onto the opponent rather than constantly looking at them and having to aim at them.
Yes, and that allowed them to stop him at the second point. Not too bad, but could have been better. But they do have 2.5 minutes in order to push it all the way to the second point and a little bit more. We'll see how this attack goes.
I can't imagine how stressful it is for our team, because they're kind of they have a lot of pressure on them in terms of getting that payload to its final destination rather than just the first one.
Yeah, because even if they roll the entire time without even stopping, 2 minutes wouldn't even be enough to get it before overtime starts. So they're going to have to fight on overtime against the other team, which could be very stressful. But I'm sure our team has the cool nerves to keep it cool and get it done.
Or they have enough jokes to keep them laughing through the entire match. I think it's a mix of both, but I'd like to think it's more of the latter, just because of how our team is.
It's easy they're gonna try to run the exact same comp, except having Moira instead of the Baptiste on attack to keep that extra damage along with the group heals.
Looks like Oasis switched to Ana, and I think this is because he's counting on the stagger of the other team. He's waiting for them to stagger our team, so that he can kind of pull back, and get our team to where they need to be.
This other team is playing very aggressive on top of the point, making sure that our team can't even get anywhere near the payload, which could honestly be very devastating for us, as if they play that aggressive and our team can't even get on the payload, that could result in a very quick loss. But the drawback with that aggressiveness is that our team can hold back from spawn, and I was just about to say, as one of us switches to Bastion and is able to sit in the spawn and spray down their team because they're playing so aggressive, which is very good.
And this shows how easily like a strat can be countered, even when it looks like the other team will win it in a matter of seconds. We can see how the flexibility and adaptability of our team and the characters they know or are familiar with or are willing to play like for the first time just shows, and how they easily adapted to that, given that it was such a high pressure moment.
في الامتحان يكرم المرء أو يهان. We need to keep the payload moving.
We can see now that the team's going for a different approach as to where they exit from spawn, and also they can catch the other team off guard, or at least catch them in the spot where they have to move or react to our team rather than just stay where they are and fire away.
It seems like they're going to be able to get the team off the payload.
We have a lot of ults as well.
It seems that they're going to be able to get the team off this payload here, which is very good at starting that push. But what's very stressful now is that they only have a minute to push it all the way to the second point and beyond. But what's very good about this, actually, is that they're going to run double shield with a Bastion, which results in a ton of damage output and protecting the Bastion while keeping everyone alive and getting a huge damage output and keeping the other team on the fence here.
It's also worth mentioning there's a wasted grab on the side, which shows that the other team has down one ult and will be for a while, depending on how easily they're able to get kills from our own.
But it seems like that they're going to have to make very quick switches here, as they only have 10 seconds to make it back to the point from losing that point.
Oasis is now going for Lucio, and this isn't for a healing perspective. This is more of a I need to touch that point so we have a bit more time to react. Or he's going to boop the other team, quite literally, off the payload so that the rest of our team can catch up and sort of continue to push the payload.
They seem to actually be getting picks here against the other team, which could allow them to actually retake this payload and make it a bit further. But once again, they are in overtime, so they're going to have to stay on the payload throughout the entirety of these 2 points in order to make it across.
It's a bit easier given that Lucio's ability can push opponents back from where the payload is, or just where Lucio is. And if Waze uses this with the right placement, he can get the other team off the payload enough for our team to focus fire and get them down.
It seems like the two flankers, the Reaper and the Tracer, are going to try to go in the back line to try to get some extra damage onto the healers or on squishies. That way the other team stays staggered, because a very good way of pushing payload is to keep the enemy team staggered and backing up so that they aren't able to group up.
Here we can see the continued usage of this boot ability, for lack of a better word. And how Waze uses it to move the opponents into the line of sight of all of our different heroes, and their damage also allows them to stagger the other team, and this makes it way easier for our team to stay on the payload.
Setting up
very
a
close game.
take a defeat here. And it was very close indeed, as the payload maps can be very difficult to push in whenever you're stuck in overtime like that. Snide series is 2-1-1, two on the enemy side, 1 on our side, and then a tie on both sides here.
I think the best part about a game like this and the different heroes is seeing how one can use these different heroes in different situations to kind of compensate for the rest of the teammates.
Now, our team's gonna be stuck in it right here, as they're gonna be playing on Li Zhang Tower, which is looking like the points we played on before, where you have to push a payload or go all the way to a point. Here, instead, you have to sit on the point. It's a King of the Hill style map. What it's literally called King of the Hill, where you sit on the point for a few, like a minute and a half to 100 seconds in order to take a round. And in these games, it's best 2 out of 3 for these rounds.
There are also so many ways you can approach this objective, so it gives both teams a sense of predictability as to where they can go. If they go one way, then they have the option of going the same way or going the one other different way.
I'm very interested in what our team is going to run a Lijiang Tower here, and it can be very stressful as they're going to have to win both of these next maps in order to win the series, so there can be no mistakes being done at all in these next few games.
It looks like Always is going to run either. Oh, he's going for Lucio. Maybe. I thought he was sticking to it, and then he switched, and I was like, oh. But I guess he's sticking. I guess he's sticking to Lucio, and this is probably because of Lucio's boop ability. And if he times it right and places it right, he's able to get the entire other team off of the objective, or you take advantage of the amount of environmental kills that can be done on this map.
Yeah, specifically on this map, where if they are able to rush across the bridge and the other team also decides to rush across the bridge, Lucio can easily knock them off of the while they're pushing and get 2 to 3 picks very easily and take the point super fast without needing to worry about the DPS having to get any eliminations on their team.
We know that Always is an adept user of the. Oh, never mind. I can't talk about
Spoke
that
too soon.
anymore. Oh, come on, man. The one time I decided to comment on it. Sad. Okay. Let's see if he can redeem himself. Apparently not. Okay.
A bit too soon on the on Always adaptability on Lucio.
I was gonna say that he could use his knowledge of Lucio's wall ride to kind of circle the objective because of the way the walls are built around this point. And you can see him using this now and entering the point from a different entrance entirely.
That was a very unfortunate moment for our Lucio there, but I'm sure he'll pick it up later on in the game.
Science will reveal the truth.
You can see now that Always has switched to Moira, and this is likely because this is such a close-range map in terms of how healing can be done and how far up the team can push through without their healers.
Yeah, it seems like the map is going to be very dominant here, as well as the windows can be very well in dealing damage in the one spot, as the many different entrances to the point are at a perfect range for a window to be used.
You can see here that the other team has taken the objective first off, but not completely because our team's able to push through their defense and get that point without much opposition, actually.
Fully healed.
It seems like they're going to try to hold on the bridge here and block that entranceway completely, forcing them to move to the right of the point and go in through that little entrance where if a Baptiste builds his ult fast enough, a window can be placed there and be very easily able to dish out tons of damage in a short amount of time.
This definitely gives the other team less options in terms of how they're going to get the point if that is their goal, rather than staggering our team because of the way that that part of the choke is built.
You can see them using on the various entrances of that choke to be able to easily get ult off in that room, such as Reaper's Death Blossom, because it basically covers the entire room, leaving the enemy nowhere to hide unless they decide to push out of the room, eating the damage of the Death Blossom, which most likely will happen in time of the fight.
Especially because Moira is a healer that can do a significant amount of damage and transport herself away from any ults that use location as their primary damage source.
As you can see, both of our teams did very, very good ults here in terms of getting rid of the other team. As Ryan hit a very big shatter, pretty much hitting the entire team, and then Azaria follows up with the grab, pulling them all together to put all the damage together as well. Even though our team lost that fight, it was still very good for them to hold it down, as it gives them the king of the hill percentage, as it doesn't really matter too much if your team dies. As long as you keep holding the point down and keeping the percentage up, it's always a win for you.
Especially because with the amount of percentage the other team has, our team is able to regroup and sort of get that point back, even if some time is lost.
And we see another example of a window being used in this entrance, being able to dish out much projectile damage in a short amount of time. Sadly, our Reaper gets booped off by the Brig split here.
You can see that focus fire is very important here, especially with how close quarters this game is, and with the map like this, it's way easier to focus fire in my opinion, because the other team has to go through certain entrances in order to get to the point. So you can call out where they are in relation to these entrances, and focus fire just becomes way easier. Rather than an open map like a payload map like the previous one.
That reminds me of a support that they could be running, like Zenyatta, which allows the Discord to put a ton of damage onto the other team. Because since focus firing is going to be very good in order to taking someone out, the Discord can make taking someone out very easy in terms of reducing their health to a minimum.
Here we see that our team is trying to stall so that the rest of the team can sort of regroup and get back to the point so that they can try getting the point during overtime.
Okay, stall characters are coming in very, very clutch here as they keep contesting the point, seeing if they could get any type of pick off on the enemy team to make sure to get them off the point. But sadly enough, it didn't work out for this round.
I think that was a good usage of the heroes we were playing, because of just how they move and how easy it is for them to get from the spawn to the objective.
So enough, they're going to have to win both rounds in a row, or that's the end of the series for them. So they should probably try to run their best comp here, especially on this map, as it's very versatile on what you can run. They're running a Ryan Zarya, which is very good in brawling against the other team and staying close together and getting picks very easily. And they're gonna try to run the Hanzo once again to get that grab Dragon Strike combo in order to wipe out the enemy team as quickly as they can. Let's see if they can pull it off.
Similarly, you can get a lot of elimination kills here if you're able to push up on the other team's spawn. So I think that if our team gets a chance to secure the objective, they will likely take advantage of that.
Yeah, one very big choke point, like Al said, is the enemy spawn, which allows for them to have a door basically just covering pretty much their only entry point into this point. And it seems that they are going to be able to take this point, and once they end up capturing it, you could watch them slowly push up to the enemy spawn door and make it so that they can't get through, and it's going to be very tough for the enemy to get through without some type of ult or some type of flank.
As you can see, our team is trying to push through the other team, and in staggering them, pushes up even more so that they can take advantage of that choke point that the team has to enter in order to get to the point.
I think they're very even right now. A window coming in, allowing the Hanzo to do a ton of damage, basically one-shotting any squishy or getting anything extremely low.
They're pushing through, especially because of the lack of deaths on the healer's part, meaning that the rest of the team can be kept alive as the other team is pushing onto our point. And I think that's very good in terms of like how fast a point can be taken if the healers are targeted.
What's very crazy about this is that even though they're losing people a lot, they seem to be very good at staying on point, even if it's just one or two of them, just to get that percentage up even more, so the enemy team doesn't get a lot of percentage even if they capture the point by the time our team comes back.
And even if the other team does take the point for a while, they're able to regroup and sort of push all over again in the hopes that they get the point once again.
So now our team has a ton of ults coming in here. They're probably going to try to do a Dragon Strike grab combo very soon. Even if Ryan falls, We still have the Mercy to pick him back up, which she does. Here, and then here we go.
We
You
have
get
Grab
Dragon Strike.
Dragon!
Grab Dragons, eliminate the entire team once again. Very good combo by them.
Giving them a team kill and a point. Let's go!
My turn.
And they still have 2 more ults after those. Actually 3 more as Reaper's coming up with an ult. So they're gonna have 3 more ults in order to counteract the other team with whatever they're going to do in response to those Grab Dragons.
You also see that Oasis is getting his ult, meaning that he can hold down the fort as the other team tries to use their ults and kind of waste them in terms of pushing through to try getting back the point and getting their percentage up.
It seemed very bleak for our team there for a second, but our Reaper hits a very good Death Blossom, eliminating 4 of the enemy team, which is very devastating for the enemy team as they used probably 3 ults to try and get that point, and then we just shut them down using 1 Death Blossom, which is very good.
Quite literally, the team is on fire at this point. And I'm honestly really proud of them for pushing through this long, this late in the game.
Well, it could be worse.
Rachel's nothing can shake them, even though they're probably gonna lose the point here. All they need to do is recapture it 1 more time, and the enemy team only has 32% of the hill taken, so they're going to have multiple pushes to try and bring this back.
Yeah, even so, we're already at 99, so it is just 1 more push, and we can take it as long as they can keep the other team at their spawn after taking the point. That relies on them actually taking the point from the other team.
So now I recommend that they play it nice and slow. They try to build their ults and just get 1 good wipe, as if they try to use their ults 1 by 1, it could end up snowballing into a wrong time ult.
That our run and some of our healers are contesting the point, allowing the rest of the heroes to catch up and take advantage of where the rest of the other team is.
It's very unfortunate for Hanzo. He ended up getting shattered through a wall somehow.
Someone's looking out for
Very weird physics on the enemy Ryan shattered. Typing in question marks to the chat, trying to understand what just happened.
It is what
It is what it is. But he does get a very big pick on the Echo right there. Headshotting her through the little crack of the sign. And they're gonna try to make a push with this, using window to make the enemy team back up away from that big little wall of damage that's coming in.
This is a very good push in terms of how easily the other team was killed. But now we're at 99, so it's very much a battle of who can stay on the longest.
Yeah, whatever team gets wiped first gets this point right now. It's very back and forth too, but it seems like our team gonna end up coming down, and that's a win for the enemy team, and the end of the series, 3-1.
These were some very close games in my opinion. Like it wasn't even just the just the percentages alone. It was mainly the strategies at work here, and we see the contrasting strategies of both teams, even if they had similar team comp.
Well, that was. Thank you guys for watching the stream, and we all appreciate you cheering on our team and helping them. Even though they lost this game, they'll get back up and win every other game after.
We appreciate your support, and we thank you always. Have a great night.
To be expected.
Make sure to tune in tomorrow at 3:30 for Rocket League.